All right, so this session is really useful for gaining more strength in your mobility. In case we haven't talked about this together yet, there's flexibility and there's mobility, and they're both useful, but they definitely are different. Flexibility is when you're essentially just stretching out. You know, think about like a yoga class where you're just holding a stretch. That's a good thing, and because it temporarily relaxes your muscles. But when we're doing mobility, we are taking our body in and out of full range of motion. We are contracting our muscles. And what this does better than flexibility is actually builds lasting range of motion. Because the only way we get that lasting range of motion is if your brain feels safe in that range. And the only way your brain can feel safe is by building strength. So we're going to utilize supersets here. We have 3 different supersets. Just to review, a superset is when you take 2 exercises and you do them back to back. It's just a very efficient way to work out. I'm going to show you each exercise, or the first 2 exercises rather, and then with the sets and the repetitions, and then I'm going to have a prompt where you can pause the video and do the sets, and then play the video and do the same thing for the other 2 supersets. All right, so let's get into it. So for the first one, we have a dynamic couch stretch and an elephant walk. So as you'll see right here, on the couch stretch, there's different progressions. So choose the one that's right for you. But basically, we are trying to stretch out the front of the hip. Remember to squeeze your butt. Remember to not extend through your back. You want to extend through your hips and push your leg into the ground or against the wall if you're doing a harder progression. Hold each stretch for 2 to 3 seconds and then back out of it, and make sure you're breathing. You're going to do that for 10 repetitions each side. And as I always say, if you feel particularly tight either in a stretch or in a side of your body, feel free to hold each stretch for a little bit longer. And then right after that, you're going to stand up. And you're gonna grab a box, a step, or if you are flexible enough to touch the floor, then you can use the floor. But if you need to modify, feel free to use a box or a step, and you're gonna do an elephant walk. So with this one, again, as you see in the video, the most beginner progression is keeping your back flat. You put your feet hip width apart, toes pointing forward, and your palms flat on something. You bend the knees to get out of the stretch, and then you lock your knees out to get into the stretch. And a couple things you're gonna feel when you lock your knees out. You're gonna feel a contraction in your quads and your hip flexors and your abs. And then you're gonna feel a stretch in your back, your glutes, your hamstrings. You might even feel it in your calf close to your knee. Honestly, you're gonna feel the stretch wherever your restriction is. Again, make sure you're breathing, and you're gonna do 10 repetitions of this one. There's really not a lot of rest in between movements other than how long it takes you to get into position. But after you complete the set of the elephant walk, which is the second exercise, go ahead and rest 30 to 60 seconds if you want, and then repeat for a total of 3 sets. So again, all you're gonna need is a mat and a step, and go ahead and pause the video now to do your 3 sets. All right, next we have the piriformis push-up. And then we also have the trap 3 raise. So the piriformis push-up is to get some external rotation in your hips and to stretch out your glutes. So you'll see in this video, there's a couple different ways you can do it. You can do a seated variation where it's like you're crossing your leg in a chair, or the harder variation is actually on the floor. Choose whichever one, yes, challenges you, but that you can also relax into. Because if you're just fighting it the whole time, it's gonna be more counterproductive than anything. Make sure to keep your chest nice and tall and your spine nice and tall. Typically, you point your chest towards your knee as you see in the video, and then you're pushing your chest forward. You're not folding forward, you're pushing your chest out until you feel a stretch in the glute, and then you push back out of it. Again, like the couch stretch, you're holding it for a couple seconds and then coming out of it. Do that for 10 repetitions each side. And then on the trap 3 raise, where we're trying to feel this one is right in the middle of the back, right underneath the shoulder blades. So if you look at the shoulder blades of the back, it's right in the middle, right below it. Okay. If you have back issues or this is new to you, feel free to do the seated 1-arm version. But as that gets too easy, which it will, then you can do the standing version. It's just gonna be a little harder because you have to hold a hinge position. Just make sure again that you're keeping your back nice and extended, because if your back rounds out, your shoulders come up, it's gonna be pretty much impossible to feel that trap 3 raise. And again, you're gonna do 10 repetitions, like each side. Like the last superset, we're gonna do 3 sets, resting as needed between. So again, go ahead and pause the video and do all 3 sets. All right, then finally we have the seated good morning and the incline push-up. Now, I prescribe the incline push-up because this is a more beginner-geared program, but you'll see on the right hand of the table in the exercise table, you'll see progressions. You'll see a harder version, which is all you do is you just lower your body closer and closer to the floor. So if you start your incline push-up on a kitchen table like you see in the video, and then eventually maybe you'll see in the video too, I put my hands on a couple of chairs, then maybe you go to an ottoman, and then finally you're on the floor. Give that time like any progression, but eventually you'll be able to go lower and lower. With the seated good morning, again, you'll notice a really common theme. It's a nice tall spine. With the seated good morning in particular, we're driving the knees apart as we're pushing the chest forward. You're gonna feel this one big time in your groin and your hip flexors, as well as your glutes and your lower back. In regards to feeling things in your lower back, just make sure that it's a broad, muscular contraction feeling like you would feel when you're doing curls, and not an acute kind of pinching sensation, especially on one side. You wanna try to feel it equally. You're gonna do 10 repetitions of that, and then you're gonna stand up, set up for your push-ups, and do 10 incline push-ups. Remember, on the push-up, it's a shoulder blade motion. Your elbows are gonna bend whether you like it or not, right? But we wanna focus on starting the movement by pinching the shoulder blades together, and then as we pull the elbows back and lower down, we're continuing to pull the shoulder blades back, okay? And then you push back up. So again, it's shoulders, then arms, but you're still squeezing the shoulder blades together, and then push up. And that one's also 10 repetitions. Again, 3 sets. Again, rest as needed between sets. Go ahead and pause the video now and do all 3 sets. Okay, great job. So in case this hasn't been discussed, I recommend doing this circuit at least 2 to 3 times per week. A little bit more intermediate and advanced can get away with doing it more, but 2 to 3 days a week is a great starting point. Remember the other factors of your health. You gotta sleep at least 7 to 8 good hours. Make sure you're hydrating, and make sure you're eating a lot of lean protein. So great job, and I'll see you next time for the next session.